Hydro Thunder Hurricane is a boat racing game developed by Vector Unit and published by Microsoft Game Studios. It was released for Xbox 360 on July 28, 2010, and for Windows PC on November 5, 2012. There was also DLC released for the Xbox in October 2010 called the Tempest Pack, which includes 3 extra racetracks and some new boats. I will be reviewing the base game along with the DLC as just one whole package. I've owned the DLC for so long that I consider it to be a part of the main game. I actually forgot the game even had DLC until I started working on this review. So this is a review of the Xbox 360 version of Hydro Thunder Hurricane and the Tempest Pack played on an Xbox One X. Right off the bat, this game is amazing. I've been playing it for years and it might be my favorite racing game of all time. Every time I have friends over, this is one of the games we always play. It has up to 4-player split screen, online multiplayer, and plenty to do in single player as well. The single player consists of 4 different events. The first event is called Race. It's pretty self-explanatory. You race against 15 AI opponents and try to get first place. With the DLC, there are 11 tracks, so in all there are 11 races to complete, one for each track. This is my favorite event. The next one is Master, which has the same 11 tracks, but you have to beat them on all 3 difficulties, so there are a total of 33 races. I really don't like this one. It can get really annoying, especially on the hardest difficulty. There aren't any AI opponents here. All you do is race to the finish as fast as you can while having to go through arenas that appear on the track. You have to complete the track in under a certain time limit, and if you miss a arena, it adds time onto your timer. On top of being the event that I least enjoyed, the fact that there are 33 races here made completing them all an absolute chore. However, there was an upside in that the different difficulties would place rings in different locations, which would sometimes lead me to find new shortcuts that I had not yet discovered. So even though I didn't like the Master event, there were definitely benefits to playing it. The reason I didn't like it so much is because I would try to get through the track as fast as I could, as you should since you're timed, and often I would hit a wave and go flying over a ring and lose time. The waters are very turbulent in this game, and hitting a wave is something that happens often, so missing a ring because of an accidental jump happened all the time. It led to some extremely frustrating gameplay, especially when I'd be so close to the finish line and then hit a wave and miss a ring or two right towards the end. If instead of rings there were gates, where it didn't matter if you go through them at a higher or lower elevation, then the Ring Master would have been far more enjoyable, but also a lot less challenging. The third event is called Gauntlet. There are 11 races here, one for each track, and like Ring Master, there aren't any AI opponents and you have to complete the track in under a certain amount of time. But here there aren't any rings. Instead, there are exploding barrels placed all around the track and you have to avoid them. If you so much as touch a barrel, your boat will explode and you will have to reset in order to continue, which wastes time. I like this mode. It's not as fun as racing against opponents, but it's a fun time trial type challenge, and definitely better than Ring Master. The final single-player mode is called Championship, which consists of 13 events with varying amounts of races per event. Each one of the 13 events consists of multiple races, ring masters, gauntlets, or any variation of the 3. This mode is a hit or miss for me. It depends on the event. Some events include only races or only gauntlets, which are fun, while others include only ring masters, which are annoying, and others are a mix of all 3. So overall, I think that Championship game mode is okay. It really depends on which of the 13 events you play. That's everything there is to do in single player, and it can keep you busy for quite a long time, especially if you're trying to get gold trophies for every single event, which I did eventually manage to do. Visually, the game looks great. In fact, to me, this is one of the best looking video games ever made. Obviously, it's an older game and some of the textures look a little bit dated, but I'm talking about the overall look and atmosphere of the game. And even in terms of textures, I think the game still looks good. It's realistic, and yet at the same time it's vibrant and colorful, as I think games should be. Games are art, and they should look artistic. Today there's a huge emphasis on ultra-realistic graphics, and I honestly don't understand the appeal. If I want to look at real life, I'll turn off the TV and go outside and look at real life. But I love it when games still look like games while managing to still look realistic. And this game is very beautiful and very pleasing to the eye. The water looks great, and some of the tracks look absolutely stunning. And speaking of tracks, there isn't a single one I dislike. Yeah, I have my favorites and those I like a bit less, but I have no problem playing them all. I think they're all amazing tracks, and some of the best ones in any racing game ever. Some tracks go straight from starting line to finish line, while others come around full circle and have 3 laps. Overall, the track designs are very impressive, and I like the variety, and they all feel very different from one another. Having only 11 tracks doesn't sound like a lot, especially since that's with the DLC, but I'm much happier with 11 amazing tracks than I would be with, say, 30 that are just okay or not very good. My favorite track is actually part of the DLC. It's called the Bermuda Triangle. There are whirlpools, huge waves, airplanes and ships falling from the sky. It's so cool and so fun to race through. I remember the first time I raced through this track, I was blown away. Another one of my favorites is Area 51, but like I said, they are all great tracks. There is no story mode in this game, and as far as I'm concerned, that's a good thing. I really don't like stories in racing games. They're usually super cringy, and I really don't care. I just want to race. Before each race, you pick a boat, of which there are 11 in all. That's including the ones with the DLC. And just like the tracks, they are very different from one another. Different in terms of speed, handling, acceleration, which makes some easier to use than others. I played with every single one, and if you play long enough, you can eventually get used to the ones that are harder to control, but I still prefer the ones with better handling. My favorite one by far was the Thresher. The Whiplash is my second favorite, and some of the other ones I really liked are the Razorback and the Rad Hazard. Often you have to pick the right boat depending on what track you play, but the Thresher is great on every map. Each boat also has different skins you can apply. It doesn't have any impact on the gameplay, but it looks cool, and if you find that your friends are using the same boat as you, you can personalize your own to look unique. Overall, I give Hydro Thunder Hurricane a perfect 10 out of 10. There are not very many games that I feel deserve a 10 out of 10, but this is definitely one of them. It's so simple and yet such a work of art. It probably is my favorite racing game of all time. Everyone I've ever played it with loves it, and this is a game I recommend to everyone. And if you get it, I also highly recommend getting the DLC as well. Some of the best maps and best boats are in the Tempest Pack. The game is $15, and the Tempest Pack is another $5, and I think this game is definitely worth the $20 price tag. It turns out that this is the second game in the series, and there was a first one for the N64 called just Hydro Thunder. I hope someday Vector Unit will release a third. I would definitely buy it. Anyways, that's it for the review. Thank you for watching. Moltok, out.